Chris is going to give his third and last speech for level 2 of the dynamic leadership path. And it's related to introduction to Toastmaster mentoring, which is really great. We've had like 3 weeks of mentoring speeches. And the title of his speech is Grocery Store Learning, which I'm really looking forward to because I know Chris has a really funny way of telling stories. He's an awesome storyteller. The things I'll be looking for are, some of the standard things like clarity, vocal variety, organization of the speech, and hopefully sharing some personal experiences as a protege. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ranjita. Our next speaker is Chris. He'll be talking about experience mentoring, and we always enjoy his stories about growing up in Salinas. So I can't wait to hear Chris's speech. Chris.
I'm standing next to the checkout counter in Star Market, Salinas, California. And I'm bagging groceries for the first time. Listening to the cadence of the groceries being scanned. Beep, beep, beep. And the groceries are coming down the conveyor belt, and I'm bagging the groceries. And I see to my left, Victor is approaching me. Victor was one of the co-owners of Star Market grocery store. He was tall with short, thick black hair. He thought about his store 24/7, and he never missed an opportunity to coach an employee if it meant making his store better. Victor walks up, he peers down into the grocery bags with a scowl on his face. He says, "Chris, you can't put the bread at the bottom. You'll crush it. You've got to put the cans on the bottom. And then you've got to separate the produce with the produce, the meat with the meat, the cold stuff with the cold stuff, non-food stuff with the non-food stuff. Got it?" I said, "I got it." He walks away, but I could tell he's still looking at me. I rearrange the bags according to his spec. The groceries start coming down the conveyor belt again. Beep, beep, beep. I reach for an old-fashioned glass bottle of milk. I pick it up, but the condensation on the glass slips from my hand. The milk bottle falls on the hard floor. Boom! There's a silence in the store for 2 full seconds while milk spills everywhere. It was not a good day. But that experience at Star Market proved to be invaluable in the things that I would learn over the next couple of years. Pretty soon I became better at bagging, and I would insist, as the rest of the baggers did, that we would walk the groceries out to the customer's car, and we'd do it over and over again with a smile. Later on, I was promoted to General, which was a team of people, small group of people that were charged with stocking the shelves every late afternoon into the night. And I was stocking the shelves on aisle 3, that was the paper aisle, with a big box, and I had my box cutter, took the top off, and I'm stocking Charmin toilet paper onto the shelves. A customer walks up. "Excuse me, could you tell me where your cashews are?" I confidently said, "Oh, that's 1 aisle over, aisle 4. And she says, "Thank you," with an almost disappointed look on her face. Out of nowhere, Victor walks up a minute later. He says, "Chris, this isn't Supermax." I said, "What do you mean this isn't Supermax?" He says, "At Star Market, when a customer asks us where the cashews are, we don't tell them they're on aisle 4. We say, they're on aisle 4. Let me go show you where it's at." We walk them to the cashews. We make sure that they find what they're looking for and that they're happy. And I immediately thought back at the time at Safeway when I was looking for capers, and the clerk told me they might be on aisle 8. Or the time at 7-Eleven trying to get coffee, and the coffee carafe was empty, and I walked away empty-handed. Or the time I went to Carl's Jr., ordered a Western bacon cheeseburger with crisp cut fries, and the server told me they were out of ketchup. And I ate my dinner painfully without ketchup. And then as I'm walking out, I see the drive-thru attendant hand a customer ketchup. I was so bothered. I went and found the server. I said, hey, the drive-thru just handed ketchup. He looks over and he says, oh, the drive-thru. Yeah, that's not my area. With all of the bad customer service in the world, it's easy to give that little bit extra. And that's what Star Market did to set themselves apart with great customer service. If there was one thing that the owners of Star Market despised, it was people stealing from them. So they had a whole set of protocols to prevent it. I was stocking shelves in the soap aisle this time, and I hear on the intercom, Chris, please report to the meat department. Chris, please report to the meat department. So I walk over to the meat department, and Art is another owner, brother of Victor. He says, Chris, there's a guy on aisle 5 with a great jacket. He put a sewing kit in his pocket. And that's all that I needed to know. Because when you have a suspected shoplifter and you see them put something in their pocket, what you have to do is monitor them to make sure that they don't make the drop, make sure that they don't drop the sewing kit. So what I did was I monitored him discreetly. From the meat department, I looked at him and monitored him on aisle 5 to make sure he didn't drop the sewing kit. Then he moved to aisle 6. So I moved over to the cold case and watched him from inside the refrigerator glass where I could view aisles 6, 7, and 8. And then he walks up to the check stand. And at the check stand 5, he met his wife who had a full basket of groceries. And the checkout clerk started scanning, beep, 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 and the bagger was bagging the groceries. I stood right behind him to make sure that he didn't make the drop. He still had that sewing kit in his pocket. And then they're about done. I see Victor walk up. Victor walks up to the check stand. He still hasn't dropped the sewing kit. They're all bagged up. They're about to go. And I see Victor give the no-go sign. And the couple left with a full basket of groceries and a stolen sewing kit. I said, Victor, why did you let him go? He said, that was Don. He's a long-time customer. I didn't want to embarrass him in front of his wife. I'll talk to him next time he's in the store. Who knows what he's got going on? That experience, all of that time at Star Market was invaluable because I learned the power of customer service. That little things like thoughtful bagging, walking groceries to the car, walking someone to the item that they're trying to find in the grocery store makes a huge difference in showing that you care. And it turns out that when you show customers you care, they care back, which is better for your business. I learned the power of empathy, that understanding what customers are thinking and feeling allows you to make better decisions, allows you to serve them better. And I learn and think about this every day, that we are all at our best when we see through the eyes of the people that we're trying to serve. The things that I learned at Star Market were the soft skills that you can't learn in a university or at a company workshop. Things to understand what the customers believe, what the customers feel and want to feel, and how to deliver that feeling. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Chris. Excellent speech. So many times we go to our first job and we think it's just a job, or maybe, a little thing to earn a little extra money, but we actually gain a lot of wisdom, and it sounds like you did. Very good. Okay, next I'd like to call up, I believe, is it Martin, who is going to introduce our next speaker, Frank.
Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster. The next speech is by Frank. The title of it will be The 3 Essential Food Groups, which is Frank's research project for it's the last speech of level 1. So I'm going to watch how the speech is structured, how the research is well done, supported by sources, what is the structure and of the speech and delivery of the presentation. Back to you, Ms. Toastmaster.
I'd like to introduce Frank, who has joined us about 6 months ago, and we can't wait to hear what he's going to speak about. So, Frank.
Are you familiar with the advantages and disadvantages of the food that you eat? Well, I'm going to be going over the 3 essential food groups according to dietitian, Guiding Star dietitian Kitty Breuer. She says that trending diets tend to be isolating, restricting, and difficult to follow long term. So instead, we should be declaring what we should and should not eat. The 3 essential food groups are carbohydrates, proteins, and dietary fats. There's 2 different kinds of carbohydrates: simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates are most commonly known as fruit and vegetables. Our bodies turn simple carbohydrates into energy instantly because our stomach doesn't need that much energy to break them down. According to Orlando Health, simple carbohydrates protect us against cancer, type 2 diabetes, stroke, heart disease, and high blood pressure. They are also low on saturated fat, so they could help us lose weight or at least not gain weight. Examples of complex carbohydrates are sweet drinks, fruit juices, pastries, cookies, candy, French fries, potato chips. I'm probably making you guys hungry because it's this early, but don't eat that stuff. That's not good for you. They are empty in nutrients. The natural fiber in them is stripped out, and they tend to trigger hunger and cravings to eat more of this stuff. In other words, they're empty calories. According to Orlando Health, complex carbohydrates are associated with health problems like obesity and type 2 diabetes. The next is protein sources, which are lean meats, seafood, beans, soy, low-fat dairy, and eggs, nuts, and seeds. Proteins maintain your hunger, so they could help you actually lose weight. In the US, the term lean meat refers to muscle tissue in mammals and birds. If you plan on eating additional protein, it's recommended that you speak to a doctor, because especially if you have kidney disease or liver disease, a lot of protein could be strained on your kidneys or your liver. According to WebMD, you should eat no more than 5 ounces of lean meat a day. Our body is made out of 20% protein, and when we eat protein, the protein is broken down into amino acids, which is what our body needs. And animal meat is complete in amino acids. Plants are low in amino acids and are missing some of the amino acids that meats have. Also, eating animal meat is good to build muscle and also help to reduce muscle loss due to age. It's recommended to eat lean meat twice a week, and all the other days eat some other form of protein like fish, which fish not only has protein, but it also has omega-3 and vitamin D. According to WebMD, omega-3 fatty acids help lower blood pressure, reduce abnormal heart rhythm, and reduce the likelihood of heart attack and stroke. Also, adding proteins, other proteins to your daily diet will help supplement the 56 grams of protein that a male needs, 47 grams that a female needs on a daily basis, and that's calculated based on 0.8 grams of protein based on 2 pounds of your weight. The third food group is dietary fats. There are 4 different kinds of fats: saturated fat, trans fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat. Dietary fats are essential to give your body energy and support your self growth. They help protect your organs and help keep your body warm. Fats help you absorb some nutrients and produce important hormones too. Your body definitely needs fats. Saturated fats are mainly come from animal meat, like red meat and poultry. Trans fats are made from oils, from food processing, from the process of hydrogenation. Monounsaturated fats come from canola oil, avocado oil, sunflower oil. Polyunsaturated fats come from walnuts, fish, corn. And according to Mayo Clinic, saturated fats and trans fats are actually help increase your bad cholesterol. And polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats actually help lower the bad cholesterol. So remember to choose foods with good fats. It's recommended not to eat trans fats at all, and also to eat 10% of your daily calories of saturated fat. So remember the 3 essential food groups: carbohydrates, which is 2 different kinds of carbohydrates, which is the simple and the complex. The simple carbohydrates are the most common, the fruit and vegetables. The complex carbohydrates are all the junk food, which is chips, pastries, white bread, white rice, white pasta, all the stuff that's making you hungry again, but it's not good for you. Dietary fats is protein sources are the other food group, which is the lean meats, the seafood, beans, low-fat dairy, eggs, nuts, and seeds that your body needs for protein. And then the third one is the dietary essential fats, which give your body energy and support your cell growth, which are the trans fats, saturated fats, polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats. So I hope this made it a little bit clearer of what foods to eat, and that you declare what food you should and should not eat. Back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay. Thank you, Frank, for the reminders, nutrition reminders that I need to remind myself to follow. Could we take a minute to write a little review for Frank? And also, I forgot to do that for Chris. So could we just take a minute or two to write to both Frank and Chris, either in the chat room or email? Thank you. So you think? Okay, we're running a little behind, so right now I think I'd like to turn it over to Stephen, who will present the table topics.
Perfect. In the spirit of hibernation, we're going to talk about things about hibernating. So what happens? So I'll get right into the questions, and I'll remind you, I'm also the timer. So I'll be holding up the cards 1 to 2 minutes for table topics. Let's dive right in. Our first question is, tell us a trip about a time where you were stranded or stuck out in the cold. Tell us about a trip where you were stuck out or stranded in the cold. If I could call on Chris Ketchum, if you're up to it.
I think I can take it. The first thing that comes to mind is mountain biking. I'm a big mountain biker, and there was a new trail at Demonstration Forest in Santa Cruz. I don't know how many people are familiar with that area. It's very beautiful. And there's this hidden trail called the Flow Trail that all the mountain bikers seem to know. But of course, I did not know the trail. They have little signs here and there hidden on trees, things like that. And it's kind of, you got to know somebody to kind of get to this trail. Well, there was a gentleman there who kind of pointed me in the right direction. Long story short, I ended up finding this trail, which was much farther than I thought. And it got very late as I was coming back, and it got very cold. It was getting dark, and I got kind of worried about mountain lions and all kinds of things running in my head. In fact, it was so late that I was the last car there. And as I was leaving, that gentleman came up and he said, "Man, I was really worried about you. I was going to call the police because I thought maybe you had fallen off the trail and you got hurt." But needless to say, I did find my way back. I had a great time, and I was a little chilled, but I didn't go into hibernation. Thank you.
Very good. Yes, the Santa Cruz Mountains can definitely be cold. So I thank you for sharing today. Let's move on to our next question. Tell us a time where you woke up, you walked out to your car, you were running late to work, and your windshield was frosted over. What did you do? Can I call on Henry?
Wow. You're taking me back to New York when I lived in New York for over 15 years. Leaving the Caribbean and moving to starting off life in America in New York was quite an experience. Especially when because the month I started was actually started during the winter months. So coming outside and seeing my car that was black, all white, it was a bit of a shock. I didn't take it to the paint shop. Why? What happened? Oh, that's snow. Okay. And having to get some hot water to start the process of defogging and depainting my car from being black to white was quite an experience, but I did it. And so began my life in America in the winter months in New York and enjoying the changing seasons and praying for the return of summer. Because that experience after my first time was something I just didn't want to keep repeating. But I lived through it, I made it, and it was quite an experience that made me realize in life, every day is not Sunday. There will be good days and bad days. And the secret to life, perhaps, is changing with the changes. Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Perfect. Thank you, Henry. I definitely remember living in New York during those cold times and getting out there scraping the windshield with the credit card or whatever I could find in my pocket. So I definitely appreciate your story taking us back to the East Coast. Thank you. Our next question this morning is, tell us about your favorite piece of clothing that you go to when it gets cold outside. What do you wear? What's that one that really keeps you warm and lifts your spirits? If we could hear from Camille, if you're up to it.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. My favorite piece of clothing is actually this black pair of underwear that just fits me really well, but that's not what you're asking about. But when you're speaking, like when you're at your club or you have to go give a presentation at work, I put on this black pair of underwear, and just something about them makes me feel magical. I don't know what's gonna happen in the next couple of weeks, because if I keep getting fat the way that I am, I'll no longer be able to wear those black underwear. Okay, so moving right along. What keeps me warm? I do have this one particular sweater that kind of goes up to here, and people say, "Oh, are you?" There's nothing wrong with nuns, but you know, they say I kind of look like a nun, but I am farthest from the, well, I shouldn't say that. I'm not far from being a nun. That's not, that's not actually true. Maybe I should put my mouth in hibernation, because I'm getting a lot of trouble here. I think I'm getting a lot of trouble. But I do have a blue coat that I like to wear. It kind of stands out. You know, if I was ever to go back to the East Coast, the blue coat would stand out against the white snow. And I know it's got to be at least a minute. I must have missed the timer here. So let's see. You know, during this time, here we go. Yeah. I was feeling kind of sick. So I've been taking all these supplements lately. And you know, nowadays when you cough or sniff, you think, oh man, did I get COVID? You know, it kind of freaks you out a little bit. So I'm taking so many supplements now that I kind of smell like a health food store. When I sweat, I smell kind of funny. The whole thing is just crazy. But I'm going to keep taking the supplements and stay in hibernation, actually, until I feel better. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you. I definitely understand keeping warm and the variety of clothing. It could change through and through. So I appreciate your comments, Camille. That was wonderful. Thanks for joining us today. Let's see, we got time, I think, for one or two more. Let's keep asking some questions. How's that sound? Excellent. So the first one is, or I should say the fourth question. I'm getting confused. It's so early in the morning for me. Tell us a time where you were forced to hibernate. And I'd like to call on Julie.
Good morning. When you say that, and how Camille was talking about sickness, it brings me back to, since I've had my job for over 20 years, I've had pneumonia twice within a couple of years of each other. And I remember the first time, I had no idea that I had pneumonia. I just felt awful. I felt so awful, I was crying, not understanding what was wrong with me. But thank goodness our master bedroom is so large. I just stayed in there constantly, and my husband just brought me food, and all I did, I think, was ate applesauce. Lost weight, of course. And then it was weird just not seeing anybody, not being anywhere. I remember before I was even diagnosed, he wanted me to go to a Christmas, like a Christmas Eve event he'd have every year. It was a big tradition with his family. So I said, I don't think I should go. And he kind of pushed me to go. I think it was before we were married, but I just stayed away from everybody, kept like breathing, shallow breaths, didn't touch anybody, and nobody got sick. But I should remember that feeling, and just how weird it is that since within a couple years of each other, I got pneumonia twice. I think they called it walking pneumonia. I think they said that because it was a long time ago. Because you're still able to do things, you don't realize how sick you are. I think that is where that concept comes from. But anyway, so that's what I think of when I think of hibernation. I was definitely hibernating. Thank you.
Great job, Julie. I'm glad you're back to full health and you don't have to hibernate as much. But yeah, definitely, like Camille said, take your supplements and we'll ensure that you won't get sick again. Madam Toastmaster, do we happen to have time for just one more question?
Okay, maybe one more.
Okay, we'll do one more. Our last, but not least, final question of Table Topics. Tell us about your favorite winter food that keeps you warm. Let's go with Jaime.
Hello. Sorry. Sorry for hibernating last week, but I'm back here on top. Favorite food that keeps me warm on winter? Oh, that could probably be a really hot coffee with milk. And with this, sometimes I use honey to sweeten it. So yeah, nothing that special. Coffee with milk and very hot and some honey. That would make the trick to keep me warm during the winter. And carry it on a thermal container to keep it all the day, and carry it on with me. So that would do the trick. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics.
Perfect. I definitely agree. Coffee and honey definitely works. Thank you, Jamie. Now, that will conclude our Table Topics. Let me just give a reminder of who spoke today. And if you could send me just a chat so I can tally the votes for today. We had Jaime talking about honey and coffee. Chris Ketchum talking about Santa Cruz Trail and worried about the cold and possible animals. Henry Miller and his experience of cleaning off his car in the cold winter morning. Camille and her favorite black pair of underwear, sweater, and even a blue coat. And then Julie talking about getting her walking pneumonia twice in her life, which was just terrible. Please send me the votes. I'll tally those at the end of the meeting. Thank you, and back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay. Thanks, Stephen, for some great questions and some very entertaining responses. And so right now I'd like to turn the meeting over to Dan, our General Evaluator.
Great, thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Our first evaluator is Ranjita, and she will be evaluating Chris's speech. Let's welcome Ranjita.
Thank you, Dan. Chris, as usual, you delivered an excellent speech. It was well put together, a wonderful capturing story. What I really enjoyed was you talked about a very simple setting, grocery store bagging, and you gave us this whole view or kind of an insight into a lot more than just bagging. You described very well the mentor-mentee relationship. You talked about Victor, and you showed how the simple task of bagging, you can learn a lot more from it, and what Victor brought to you in terms of organizing your food, taking offering to take your customer the bag groceries to the car, to offering to help your customer. So basically a lot of nuances that show the customer service. And then you took us to the situation where you had to track this shoplifter, but then at the end, Victor basically said, no, we're not going to, address that situation. And that's where you showed that beyond the just general task where you're talking about empathy, and these are very valuable skills and deep understanding and things that we can learn from our mentors. So I would say that you really delivered in what was expected from this speech. You had great clarity, vocal variety, you paused, and then you talked about boom, the bottle broke, and then you talked about how you were hiding behind in that whatever coal section. So, you very well, you kind of bring us to those situations and we can really see ourselves in that. I think one thing you could enhance your story with, I see you always very picture perfect in your screen. Maybe you can like move forward when you're trying to emphasize a point. It's sort of a little more movement would be great because you deliver very well, and make it a little less picture perfect, I guess. But overall, it was a really good speech, and it really helped bring to point what mentoring is about. And it could be anybody that mentors you. It's not Victor, I don't think, was really focusing on mentoring you, but you learned from him, and that's the key thing. Thank you. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Ranjita. Our next evaluator is Martin, and he will be evaluating Frank's speech. Let us welcome Martin.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. I was watching Frank with pleasure. He didn't put us into hibernation with his very well-researched speech on importance of recognition, different aspects of food. So he started with a question, and it was good because the question raised attention. Where is he going with this? Advantages and disadvantages of food, and his call for declaration of who we are. In a sense, we recognize how the food impacts us, and then Frank went through very well structured presentation of three basic food groups, which is carbs, proteins, and dietary fats, and broke each down to different subcategories, and explained based on quoted sources what is the difference between those subcategories. And as we all learned, it's interesting to see that they are some healthy and some of those are not very healthy, right? Like complex carbs versus simple carbs, or eating too much of proteins, and difference between saturated fats and monosaturated, polysaturated fats. So this was very, very good presentation, and I feel like everybody should know that. So Frank should go public with his speech and try to educate more people to be aware, because it's basic. It should be like on everybody's mind. So Frank is good. He has a good humor. I observed his few injections of humor, and he made me hungry with his references to French fries. And your gestures are pretty good. Maybe if you maybe suggestion, if you if the camera shows more of you, because I was just seeing hands popping up, and maybe your gestures could be more visible if you are kind of further from the camera. You have a very, very good way of talking, And I feel like there's a lot of potential in you if you even more kind of make it alive with humor and you use everything, you know, you use volume, you know, variations and gestures and humor and everything. So I like the speech. I learned a lot from this, and I would encourage you to continue. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you, Martin. We'll now move on and ask our functionaries for a few reports, and we will start with our timer, Stephen.
Yes, thank you. So let's talk about our two speeches. Chris, we had 7 minutes and 14 seconds. Frank, a little bit over at 7 minutes, 57 seconds. For our table topics, we had Chris Ketchum at 1 minute 18, Henry at 2 minutes, 1 second, Camille at 1 minute, 19 seconds, Julie at 1:46, Jaime at 1:02. For our speech evaluations, Ranjita at 3 minutes, 9 seconds, and Martin coming in at 3 minutes and 14 seconds. Mr. General Evaluator.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. And Deanne, can you give us a report on who managed to use this fabulous word of the day?
Thank you. You know, as soon as I said the word, I thought, oh man, bad word choice. That's just kind of really too tough to work into conversation. But I am so amazed and impressed and just in awe. Almost everybody used it. And it was just so, you know, coincidental that Stephen's questions totally fed into it as well. It was great. Joanne used it once. Dan also used it once. Henry once in the chat. Chris K once, Camille twice, Julie twice, Jaime once, and Martin once, and Stephen, you know, because you had the table topics, which was a perfect feed in, and you remembered to use it 4 times. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Deanne. It was quite a fun word. Now I will proceed with a somewhat abbreviated report on our meeting in general, as we don't have a lot of time. It was a great meeting, and part of what made it great was the fact that we had 2 speeches and we had a tip of the day or story. I'm not sure what it was, but we had a complete meeting, and so we were a little bit short on time, naturally, as Joanne, our very, very capable Toastmaster of the day, pointed out. We had great speeches and our evaluations. I'm very proud of our evaluators. They did quite well. Ranjita, I thought you had a very nicely balanced evaluation of Chris's speech, and you really got into some depth as to how that speech really, really emotionally, I think, for all of us, really captured us. And Martin, likewise, I think you gave a very appropriate type of an evaluation for Frank's speech, and you went into some detail about the content of the speech. The speech was very oriented toward content and organization. I believe that speech was, if I'm not mistaken, was that the researcher topic? Okay, great, because I didn't catch that at the beginning, but based on how you were evaluating Martin, it was fairly clear that that probably was what it was. And I would just suggest for both of our evaluators, it's always hard to do, and you did it somewhat today, but try even more to match those objectives, state those objectives. It's pretty hard with pathways sometimes, but do your best with it. And I think you all did really a very good job today. I would like to now turn, and I'd also like to mention that table topics, beautifully done, Stephen, wonderful questions. I think you must have thought of that one question on the spot about hibernation. Perhaps that'll be a mystery forever. Anyway, back to you, Madam Toastmaster.
Okay, I think I'd like to turn it over to our president, Stephen, if he has any ending remarks.
Yes, thank you. It was actually a wonderful meeting. I was scrambling, as you could tell, to make sure I had sufficient questions, and hopefully I didn't screw anybody up as I was holding timing cards at the same time. But Dan, I won't let you in on my secrets for the questions. You'll have to find out next time we get together in person, whenever that is. But before I give any announcements, let's please give a quick drum roll for our table topics winner of today. Camille, with a majority of the votes, Thank you. You were definitely funny within your impromptu speaking. Now, before we close the meeting, I wanted to check in with our two guests today just to kind of get their feedback. I know they're Toastmasters already. They're kind of coming in, taking a look at other meetings. Chris K, can we just have a few comments from you?
Yeah, first of all, just thank you guys for having me today. I really enjoyed the meeting. I think it's a different format, obviously, with COVID and doing this all on Zoom. But that's kind of the way that things go right now. So it's great practice. It's kind of a little different way of speaking. I thought the speeches were great. Everybody was very welcoming, and I hope to be back and be a regular part of the meeting. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, hey, feel free to jump in. Same time, same place, and same link for this time, but feel free to reach out to Ranjita or Joanne or myself or any of the other officers here. We'd be glad to get you enrolled to join Morgan Hill Toastmasters. And then next, if we could check in with Camille, just kind of your thoughts on attending our meeting today for the first time.
Yeah, I thought it was a great meeting. Well organized, good chemistry, great people. So thank you for letting me participate. And if you want to drop by Laugh Lovers, which is a humor club, we meet this Sunday. So maybe we'll see you there. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Excellent. Thank you. And then two announcements before we turn it over to Martin. Number one, check out our latest newsletter. There's some cool tips in it. If you want to get on that distribution, just send me a note. And if Chris K and Camille, if you want to check out our newsletter, just drop your email in the chat. I'll make sure to add you there. And then lastly, we just did post last week's meeting up on our YouTube channel, Morgan Hill Toastmasters. Feel free to check it out. We're starting to build our collection of virtual meetings out there. Well, everyone, great meeting today. Let's turn it over to Martin, who will close us out for roles for next week.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So let me quickly proceed with assignment of roles. So we have Toastmaster roles open, General Evaluator, of course, speeches 1 or 2, tip or story, table topics, timer. So let's start. Anybody would like to be Toastmaster next week?
I'll do Toastmaster.
Deanne, okay. General Evaluator. Okay, Stephen. Speech. Would like to give a speech.
We are going to have a guest speaker next week.
Guest speaker. Okay.
Yeah,
and
I believe also, his name is Brian Atkins, I believe.
Okay, this is Brian. Yeah. Okay. Brian
I'd be happy to evaluate Brian.
I'm sorry?
Sorry to interrupt, Mark. I was just going to say I'd be happy to be to evaluate Brian's speech.
Okay, so evaluator for Brian is Chris, and for, I saw Julie, right, for speech.
Yeah, I think Stephen wrote down for me to do speech next week.
Stephen, no, you.
I think Stephen signed me up.
Yeah, okay, it's you. Okay, so I have Julie for the speech and evaluator for the speech. For Julie, sorry. Yeah, I can do that. Oh, Ranjita. Me?
It doesn't matter.
We both. What about two of us?
Oh, so special.
So okay. Or, Julie, you pick. Okay. So let's.
Martin, you can be the evaluator.
Okay. I'll try to. Okay. Thank you. And okay, so let's go to tip or story. Who would like to?
I'd like to try the
story.
I'm not sure, tip or story. Yeah.
So story is longer, so I would
okay, I'll go with the story.
Okay, Ranjit.
Which hopefully will become a tip.
Sure, right. And table topics. Who would like to?
I could do table topics. Oh,
okay. Go ahead.
It's okay.
Who's that?
You could, Frank.
Frank. Okay, Frank. And timer. Most exciting role of timer. Amy. And word of the day. Who would like not to hibernate in that row?
I was going to say, if Chris Ketchum is going to come back, would you like to take a role? Maybe the word of the day?
Okay. I can do word of the day.
Okay,
Right.
perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Wizard of Oz, we kind of keep neglecting this function, but if anybody wants to do counts, let me know. All right.
What?
The
Okay.
Thank
counter?
you. Sorry?
Okay. Oh, the odd counter, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I could do that.
Okay.
I kind of space out sometimes, but
Yeah. Perfect. So we are fully staffed for next meeting. Thank you very much for joining today. It was a great pleasure and fun. See you in a week.
Right. Bye.
bye.
See you next week.
Bye, everyone. Have a good week.
Bye.